what does make a djembe more professional, less professional, good enough for you, good enough for someone, that's a very big debate. The first thing I want to say is the djembes that are sort of really out there on the internet and whatnot, that are called African djembes. So you'll read the description, it says African djembe. That's sometimes not so good because those are probably made in Indonesia and they're not hand carved. The wood that they're using to make those drums isn't as dense, and it's just not a traditional African djembe. It shouldn't be called an African djembe. But that's the world we live in, so it might be made in Thailand, Indonesia, China, who knows. But be leery of that, you know, look at the drum and say, what kind of wood is this? If it's mahogany or teak, something like that, it's another red flag letting you know, okay, so this isn't a traditional djembe. Traditional djembes are made of wood in West Africa, which go by the name of kadi, which is one of the more popular woods from Guinea and Mali. Guinea and Mali both have the kadi wood. Some people call it hadi, hari, balafon wood, because the balafon from West Africa is made of that same wood. And you can tell that wood because of its stripiness. You know, this is a piece of kadi wood right here. So you see the grain, okay? It has this sort of stripe to it. Now, kadi can be darker in color like that drum. It can also have this more of a brown color. So this is a piece of jala wood here, and it's a great wood for djembes. It's a dense hardwood, and it's got a reddish tint to it. So that kind of gives it away, so you know it's jala. And then the third wood that's very popular is called Lengai. Lengai has more of a tan color to it. It's also found in Guinea and Mali, and it's going to look like this drum. This is Lengai wood from Guinea. Okay, so Guinea and Mali are two countries that do have the similar woods, the same woods. They have Lengai, they have kadi, they have jala, so you can find those woods there. Now, Senegal and Ivory Coast and Ghana and many other countries that produce djembes, they don't have that same wood. So if you go to Ivory Coast, or you get a djembe from the Ivory Coast, this is an Ivory Coast djembe, they call this wood iroko. So iroko wood is not quite as dense as the kadi and the Lengai and the jala from Guinea and Mali. And the way that they carve the drum in the Ivory Coast is different than the way they carve it in Guinea. They still carve it by hand, but the shape of the drum, the inside of the drum isn't done with the sort of spiral effect that they do in Guinea. So there's just some different techniques going on for different places that produce djembe. The goat skin is another huge factor in your djembe. How thick is the goat skin? How tight is the goat skin on the drum, which we're going to get to because I want to show you how to tune your djembe. And then what country was the goat skin from? Because Pakistan produces a lot of goat skin. Many instruments have it on there, even djembes. And to me, that's definitely the skin you don't want. It has like a yellowish color. You can tell it's been a little more processed, and those are Pakistan skins. Then you have goat skin from Ivory Coast, which if you buy a djembe from Ivory Coast, unless it's been skinned in the United States and the person tells you, hey, I used a guinea skin on there, or I used, you know, what kind of skin did you use? It's gonna have an Ivory Coast skin if it came from Ivory Coast. Typically, I prefer Guinea skins. I prefer Guinea djembes. I went to Guinea. I studied with Bolokada. You know, that's my background. But beyond that, if you do kind of listen and check into things, you'll find that very often the goat skin from Guinea and the djembes from Guinea really do produce amazing sound. The texture of the skin, the thickness of the skin, those are things you have to select, because you can certainly get a bad piece of goat skin from Guinea. You can pick up a skin that's old. If a skin gets old, it's going to have a strong sort of smell to it. It might have moths crawling all over it, things like that. So those are signals. Even when you look at the skin and just check the texture and see how it feels and looks, sometimes you can tell it's dried out. It doesn't have the good feel to it. Those are things to look for. If you're buying a drum online, you know, I recommend talking to the person. I recommend buying from me. I definitely go through all my drums, look at them, look at the wood, see if there's any cracks in the wood. A lot of my drums, I put the skin on myself, which is always a benefit. A drum that comes from West Africa with a skin on it already, that definitely can affect the way it's going to sound in the States. In fact, 9 times out of 10 it does. If the drum is shipped by air, that's better. Comes clean and doesn't have to sit in a cargo ship for 3 months, and the skin can be still good. But even then, I've noticed that the way that they'll put the skin on in Guinea with the sun, I'm sure they skin it and leave it in the sun, let it dry, certain technique they use. Sometimes I don't like that dry sound. There's the sound of a djembe, sometimes they call it dry and wet. So a dry sound is more like you hit the slap and the sound doesn't echo too much. It's like, bah! Whereas a wet sound, you hit the slap and it goes bang. Remo djembes, which we never want Remo djembes, they have the terrible wet sound that's just ridiculous. It's like a boing sound, and the sound just washes into everything. There's no clarity of sound. So it's really shouldn't even be called a djembe, because djembes aren't supposed to have that much of a sound like that. Tuning your djembe can help the wet sound. If you tune it up tight, you're gonna lose some of the wet sound. It's gonna become more of a bang sound because the vibration is halted by the tension on the skin. So when I get my shells from Guinea, which some of these shells I was showing you, I'm going to rework the edge myself. I'm going to select the goat skin, do everything with nice quality rope, those types of things. The edge on the drum though, definitely pay attention to that. If it's sharp, it will hurt your hand. When you're playing a djembe and you're hitting the djembe to make the sound, if that edge is too thin or too sharp, like a right angle, that's going to hurt. You want it to be nice and round, okay? And that's basically the 101, the quick version on djembes. You can definitely always go deeper, talk about Ghana and Senegal. Those are kind of my lesser favorite countries to have a djembe from. Ghana is the soft wood. It's the way they skin it there. Usually the drums are shipped over, already skinned, very thin skin, just pretty low quality drum. Senegal, the wood seems to crack a lot of patchwork in their drums. Sometimes the bass, the sound of the bass, when you hit a djembe and you don't hear a big echo boom sound like that, you're missing something, because you should get that sound. But every drum is magic, Sometimes a Ghana djembe sounds beautiful, Senegal djembe, whatever, but not as common as Guinea and Mali. Those are my favorites. Ivory Coast, also like third place. I would say Guinea's number 1, Mali's number 2, Ivory Coast is number 3. I also want there to be enough knots on the ring, preferably 25 or 32, somewhere between there, 27, 28, especially if it's a larger drum like this one. I also want this ring to fit right on the drum like that, so that it kind of gets jammed on there. That's a sign of a good djembe. If you can fit a finger up in between the ring and the wood there, that means it's not exactly professional. But it's okay. Djembes, you don't have to buy a professional djembe to have a nice drum. In fact, here in the shop, we sell quite a few of small djembes because they're a little more portable, they're more affordable. You still get that sound, that bass sound. A little bigger drum, a little deeper sound. So these are made of hardwoods. They're also made of softwoods, lighter colored wood. These are great for just walking around town, pull it out and make some music with your friends.